What's up, math scholars? We have a study guide today. We're going to keep things rolling because we have a quiz coming tomorrow. There is a online Polaris review that is homework tonight. All right, yeah. Number one, we're going to be doing slope formula on number one. So you can either do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, or you can reverse the order, y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. Basically, order is not important as long as you do the same order on the top as you do on the bottom. I tend to start with my biggest y value, so I would tend to probably start with that 6. 6 minus 4 is how I would start. Negative 5 minus 8 is how I would continue. That would give me a 2 over negative 13. Now, if you have 2 over negative 13 and your friend has negative 2 over positive 13, are you and your friend both correct, or is your friend wrong?
Correct.
Yeah, and what if your third friend has negative out front and then 2 over 13? Is your third friend correct, or is your third friend wrong?
That is correct.
All three of these people would be correct. It's the same thing mathematically. Okay? And for some reason, I have juniors that still don't realize that's the same thing mathematically, regardless if your negative's on top, on bottom, or out front. Okay? Any questions on number one? So I'm going to pause the video, and we're going to have board buddies do 2 and 3, and then we'll rejoin you on the video, okay? Hey, I wanted to talk to you guys on the video. Number 2 ended up being a negative 1/12 slope, but I wanted you people in the video to see number 3. Is this group doing y minus y?
No.
They're doing this weird x2 minus y1. They're really messed up. So I wanted to show you not to do that. They were too busy writing big scholars on the board, they didn't even check their work. So it's y minus y. X minus x would be at the opposite. 5 over 2. Does that sound about right?
Sure.
Okay. I'll do the next one with you, and then we'll send up some board buddies. We talked about this on escape room day, but if your graph is graphed for you, I'd probably just count slope. I would count their rise over their run. Hey, show me with your slope arms real quick. What's a positive slope look like?
Happy birthday.
What's a negative slope look like?
Yes.
What's a 0 slope look like? And what's undefined look like? So what are we dealing with here, positive or negative? Positive. Before you even start, you know it's positive. What's our rise? 2. What's our run? So it's a positive 2 over 3. Heck, we'll just do the next one together because we're trying to save time. Is this a positive or a negative by looking at it? Good. Let's count our rise. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's count our run. So it's negative 4 over 5.
Was it?
On this whole section, they're asking for slope in the y-intercept. You don't want to answer what the slope in the y-intercept is until it's solved for y. So 6, I'm good to go. I'm solved for y. What's the slope? Good. It's the number with the x. Now, what I was having some board buddies doing earlier is they were writing 5x. Is that correct? You don't want the x there, okay? And then the intercept? Good. So on these two, you've got your work cut out for you. You have to solve for y before you answer what the slope and intercept is, okay? All right. Okay, this one here.
Sorry.
You have 2 steps you need to perform. Let's look at our steps. You want to subtract the 6x over, and this is where people lose their puppy. Do you know what that means?
No.
This negative that goes with the 3y, you have to bring down. You don't want to lose the negative sign. It'll throw everything off. Divide everybody by a negative 3. 2 negatives make a positive, so it's a positive 2 slope. A positive and a negative make a negative, so it's a negative 8 intercept. Good work.
I have a question.
Okay, this one was very unique. There were negatives all over the place. Don't lose your negatives. You subtract your 2x over, you divide everybody by negative 3. Look at that. Negative divided by negative is positive. Negative divided by negative is positive. So it was a positive slope and a positive 4 as the intercept. Okay? Let's see what's next.
Are we recording?
We sure are. We're on record right now.
Hi, Mom.
Number 8. Number 8. We're going to graph this equation. Let's refresh the graphing steps. What you want to do first is graph the y-intercept. Now this is a silly question. Would the y-intercept live on the x or y-axis? Good. Make sure you're starting on the y-axis. I see people all the time starting on the x-axis. I'm like, what you doing? It's a y-intercept. Now we're doing our slopes. Show me with your arms the negative slope. So if I'm going to go up 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I should go left 2 to make my line look like your arms.
Wait, left 2?
Up and left. Yep, up 7, left 2. Or down 7, right 2. You just have to have a negative looking slope when you're done. Are we ready to graph number 9?
Kind of.
Get y alone.
That's me. No one ever should be alone.
What's my first step if I'm getting y alone? Add your 3x. So it's 2y equals 3x plus 6. And then I'm going to finish by doing what? Good. Now, I've been talking to people all day. When do you want to slope this arc? When do you want to decimal? I should say this in the microphone. I want a slope for fractions. Or I want fractions for slopes. You never want a decimal for a slope because you can count them rise over run if they're in fraction form. So that 3 over 2, I would leave as 3 over 2. Does that make sense? Now, decimals are okay for y-intercepts, but not for slopes. All right, so I'm ready to graph it. What's the y-intercept? 3, unless I mess up. So I can go up 3, right 2, or I can go down 3, left 2. I intend to do it in both directions so I can have a straight line most of the time. Up 3, right 2, or down 3, left 2. We are at the 7-minute mark. Thank you. So we're going to send up board buddies for this one. Please solve for y before you graph it. Okay, so we are on number 10. We got this solve for y. I'm going to give that speech again on where I want fractions, where I want decimals. You always want fractions for your slopes, but decimals are okay and probably beneficial for your intercepts. This group figured out their intercept was -1.5, so they were at this awkward between position. That's okay. You can do a slope from there. The slope is go up 2, go left 1, go down 2, go right 1. So, oh, maybe they did 4 over 2, that's why they don't have dots where I have dots. Down 2 over 1, dot. Up 2 over 1, dot. But it's the same line, it's a negative line. Okay? Alright, I have a lot of people confused about the camping problem today. The camping problem is not bad because they do give you that formula. Do you see the formula provided to you?
Yes, I do.
All you really have to do is come up with a few days and figure out the corresponding cost. Now, days is going to be your x-axis, cost is going to be your y-axis. I mean, they even drew the graph for you to make that easier on you. Now, I actually saw what they had on this y-axis, and I saw it was from 0 to 4. So just to correspond with that, I would suggest you do 0 to 4 on your chart.
Dude, some...
You guys are pretty good at charts by now, right?
No.
You can either plug and chug, step at a time, putting a 0 in for D, plug it, put a 1 in for D, plug it, or you can even have the calculator make the table for you. We've done tables in the calculator, haven't we? Since I don't have my calculator pulled up right now, I'll just do it the old-fashioned way. You're going to put a 0 in for D. So it's 8 times 0 plus 4. Oops, that's a 0. That'd be 4. What if I put a 1 in for D? 8 times 1 plus 4. 8 times 2 plus 4. 8 times 3 plus 4. And 8 times 4 plus 4. So our chart looking okay?
Nope. Yeah. You know what else is going on?
Okay, we're still in the video, okay? We're still in the video. Alright, when you go to make your line, it's not actually going to be a line. Do you know why?
Because it's a scatter.
It is. It's like a scatter plot. And there's a reason. Because you can't camp for like 1.25 days. I mean, I guess you could. You could go home early and stuff, but tend to, on these real life examples, just have dots going. They're called discrete example sets. Discrete. It's an actual thing. All right, we're on 12 to 14 now. We're on 12 to 14 now. We just learned this yesterday, but I'll recap how it works. We're talking about direct variation, and that's the equation y equals mx. You might be wondering, well, Harp, where did the b go? It's a 0. On direct variation, that y-intercept is a 0, so it's not there. Remember learning this yesterday? Okay, we have our earbuds out of our ears every day. Okay, so 416 is just a coordinate that I can list out. Do you know another coordinate that will always be on direct variation equations? Good, that'll be very helpful for me because I need to find my slope. Y minus y, x minus x. This is easy. 16 on top, 4 on bottom. My slope is a 4. So my final answer is just an equation in slope-intercept form with the slope of 4 and an intercept of 0. If you had a plus 0, that'd be fine. Or this works too. That's your answer to 12. Okay. We will get a board buddy group up for 13. That's why I was getting a cover here. Okay, so we did our y minus y over x minus x, but with our slopes, we always want to reduce. What does 10 over 8 reduce to?
5 over 4.
5 over 4. So it looks like this group is upside down and maybe this group is upside down too. It's y minus y over x minus x. So I think this group's okay. But what they need to do is have their final answer in slope-intercept form. They have the slope of 5 over 4 and the intercept of 0. Okay? All right. I'm just going to scroll. I'm not going to leave the slide. We're going to do this last one together just so we keep moving. It's 0, 0 is one of the coordinates, and negative 12, 6 is one of the coordinates. Let's do y minus y over x minus x. Oh, I did my coordinate wrong. Sorry. My coordinate should have been a 6, negative 12. So I'm all messed up on my slope. Sorry. Math scholars lose their concentration too.
That's how I was born.
So it's a negative 12 on top and a 6 on bottom. So here's my final answer with the correct slope in it. So it's 15 is multiple choice if you're curious what's going on here. They just want you to choose which equation would have a slope that would make the line parallel to the given line. What's the slope of this given line at the top?
I don't know.
Negative 1, 6. It's the line. It's the number with the x, right?
I couldn't read that.
So you just have to solve for y, solve for y, solve for y, solve for y, till you get one that has the negative 0.6 as the slope. Ethan, did you get the answer? Yeah, so that'll just save us some time. I'll just show you how Ethan solved this one for y. He subtracted his 5. Well, oh, nope. Yeah, he subtracted his 3x. And then divided everybody by 5. So it ends up being y equals negative 3 over 5x plus 8 over 5. And so this is the same slope as that, and they're parallel. Hey, so tomorrow's quiz, I don't know if everyone got the memo. Tomorrow's quiz is all 100% in Polaris. Oh, I'm sorry, I think there's only 2 problems around paper pencil. But there is a couple where they'll say select all that apply. So this one is not saying select all that apply. But if they would say select all that apply, it means there might be more than one answer. So just be very careful. Be very careful on those. Okay?
Keyword might.
Last one, domain and range. Now your little line segments have endpoints, which means they're stopping and not moving on. What do you remember about domain and range?
Domain is the something, range is
Domain is x, and range is y.
y.
There's one Polaris question on domain and range. Here's how they have their domain and range written out for tomorrow. We're going to look at our x-axis, and we're going to figure out where this graph goes on the x-axis. It goes from there to about there. So negative 2 to 1. Do you agree? And they have it written like this, and here's the meaning. I know it looks like Chinese. Here's what it means. It means that x is bigger than negative 2 and x is smaller than 1. Does that make sense? Let's do a similar thing with y. Where does this line segment go on the y-axis? From about here to about here. So what are those numbers? -1 up to 4. Did you follow how I did that?
No.
Not at all?
No.
Okay, so you have to look at the axis, the y-axis. This is the y-axis. And you think, where does this graph travel in relationship to the y-axis? This is as low as it gets on the y-axis. That's at -1. This is as high as it gets on the y-axis. That's at 4. Did that help a little better?
Yeah.
Being a little bit more aggressive with my drawings? Let's do the same thing over here in the second one. We want domain, which is x, and range, which is y. Here's my x-axis. What? Okay, what do you have to do? Okay, so we are on this second one. We are talking about our domain being the x-axis. So you're simply going to look at the line segment and think, where does it go on the x-axis? This is the furthest right it gets to on the x-axis. This is the furthest left it gets to on the x-axis. Brent's going to give it a try. What do we think the answer is?
He said, yup.
Well, he had his hand up, so I thought he was volunteering.
No.
It's basically from -1 to 3. That's where that graph travels on the x-axis.
Yeah. That's what he said.
So I just heard Isaac say, is that how I should write it on the test? This is a Polaris multiple choice question on the test. What? It'll be multiple choice. You'll click the choices that look correct. Okay?
Wait, isn't it? You know what's funny? On number 7, on question 7, I've never missed
1, 2, 3. We're on the x-axis.
Same.
All right, let's try the y-axis.
No, but it has 4 marks in the paper. Holy.
Are you looking on the y-axis, perhaps?
No, look, 4 marks on it.
I have 8 now.
All right, Ethan was right. The paper that the students have in front of them, this looks more like a 4 than a 3. But on mine, it looks more like a 3. So I'm just going to stick with my answer. Let's do the domain, or sorry, the range. So we're looking at the y-axis. This is as high as it gets, and this is as low as it gets. So I'm not sure if my paper matches yours, but I'm thinking that's from 1 to 4. Is that what it looks like on your paper?
Sure.
1 to 4? All right, and finally, and we'll be done in time, domain and range for our final one. What do you think it is on the x-axis?
Yeah.
I'm thinking -3 to -1.
That's what I was thinking.
And then what are you thinking for the y-axis? -1 is where it starts, and where it ends is up here at 4.
That is a negative slope.
It is a negative slope. That was probably.
I should get a ticket.
All right. Well, thanks for hanging with us through the video. You do need to do the Polaris review assignment tonight.
You beautiful math scholars. Bye, Mom.
Goodbye.
Bye, Mom. I'm going to kiss you.